But you must understand, there are other concerns for the Asgard. We have an enemy in our home galaxy that is far worse than the Goa'uld.
The Replicators. They've launched an all-out attack on the Goa'uld. If the Goa'uld can't find a way to stop them, the Replicators will easily overrun our galaxy in a matter of weeks.
Don't be afraid. It's just a toy.
The Replicators represent several horrors when it comes to the realm of science. One is the fear of AI. You probably know about the Ultron conundrum. An AI is created for world peace, then decides that human extinction is the way to go. But you might not understand why this happens. You see, programs are painfully obedient. Let's say I have a program to sort numbers into evens and odds. It can be good at that, but if it ever comes across something it can't handle, it'll crash. As programmers, it's our job to conceive of these potential problems and create workarounds. The issue is that when you tackle real-world problems, there are a near infinite ways they can fail, and there's no way to account for all of them.
Sir, the simulations we ran anticipated every conceivable scenario.
You know, Carter, it's the inconceivable ones I'm concerned about.
Hence why an AI would be useful. It can figure out what to do with all these potential issues. But no matter how smart the AI is, there is a fear it will still be too obedient. However, our fears don't end there. During some testing with AI in a game of hide and seek, after a while, the AI began glitching the simulation in order to win.
The Seeker has noticed that it can use a ramp to climb on the top of a box, and this happens. Do you think couch surfing is cool? Give me a break. This is box surfing. And the scientists were quite surprised by this move, as this was one of the first cases where the Seeker AI seems to have broken the game. In a few isolated cases, other interesting behaviors also emerged. For instance, the hiders learned to exploit the physics system and just chuck the ramp away. After that, the Seekers go, "What? What just happened?" But don't despair, and at this point, I would also recommend that you hold on to your papers, because there was also a crazy case where a Seeker also learned to abuse a similar physics issue and launch itself exactly onto the top of the hiders. Man, what a paper.
This shows you just how cheeky AI is and how tricky it is to catch all the variables. I tell it to mine iron, it starts mining it from humans. I put humans on the exception list, it starts mining from our pets and animals. I put living things on the exception list, it starts destroying buildings. I say can't destroy man-made infrastructure either, so it starts mining under the cities, causing sinkholes. Not to mention that one day it might realize that a corpse doesn't count as a human or a living thing, so it starts killing people to create new places to mine iron from. If there is any loophole whatsoever, the AI will exploit it. Not even maliciously. As far as the AI is concerned, it's just doing what it's told.
Hey, can you make me a prince?
There is a lot of gray area in make me a prince. I could just make you a prince.
Oh, no.
Right, you'll be snuggled up with that dude for the rest of your life.
Y'all see my palace?
Be specific with your words. The deal is in the detail.
Got it.
And quite frankly, this is only for narrow artificial intelligence, an AI that is designed to achieve a singular goal. There are two more concepts that you need to know: general artificial intelligence and artificial superintelligence. Narrow artificial intelligence, or ANI, means that it is designed for a single narrow range of tasks. The AI is meant to master that task beyond what an organic can accomplish. General artificial intelligence, or AGI, means it can learn and apply knowledge from any task. This is often compared to human level of intelligence because of the sheer versatility. Then you have artificial superintelligence, ASI, when an AI surpasses humanity in every conceivable way, and even in inconceivable ones. This also makes the line between AGI and ASI very hazy, since even our current ANI surpasses humans, able to perform tasks far better than any human. Meaning, if and when AGI is achieved, there is a possibility it'll jump straight to ASI. There's one more concept. These are all models of intelligence, creative thinking, and learning. Sapience is self-awareness, especially of one's own existence. Which means you can absolutely achieve making artificial intelligence that surpasses humanity without ever making it sapient. Another is the idea of gray goo. Despite the sound of its name, it's not meant to describe the appearance, but rather describe something mundane and harmless. The idea is if you have a nanobot, and through some error, it indiscriminately harvests material to multiply. It will increase its number exponentially. Every new nanobot will have the same ability to do the same, and so on, ad infinitum. In the original idea, it was one nanobot that could create another after roughly 15 minutes. So 15 minutes later, you have 2 nanobots. 30 minutes later, you have 4. 1 hour later, you have 16. 2 hours later, you have 250. 1 day later, and the mass of the nanobots will exceed the mass of the planet, meaning Earth, and everything on it was destroyed in less than a day. Such is the terror of exponential growth, and you can see how both of these apply to the replicators. The history behind the replicators is extremely muddled. We know some, but mostly left guessing with the rest. At some point in time, a planet in the Milky Way galaxy built an android named Reese. Reese was both advanced and intelligent, but she also had the maturity of a teenage girl. The android began using some of its onboard functions to make toys to play with. Not weapons or anything of the sort, just toys.
Don't be afraid. It's just a toy.
However, the people of her planet grew fearful of her and tried to destroy her and her creations. So she programmed her toys to protect herself and her. But if that's all they had, then you'd get diminishing returns. The number of toys is finite. So she also taught her toys how she made them. She didn't want a weapon of mass destruction, she just wanted a way to protect herself. At this point, the replicators are ANI. They are designed for a single purpose. But remember what I said about loopholes. Reese would lose control of her creations, and the replicators still had one prime directive: to protect itself. And part of the way they ensured their own safety was to replicate. So that's what they did. They multiplied until they killed everyone in the area. And after that, they left to scour the planet. And in her sadness, Reese shut herself down. This is where the history of the replicators gets really muddled. At some point in time, the Asgard would find a civilization in their home galaxy that had been destroyed by the replicators, leaving only blocks behind.
They were discovered on an isolated planet in our home galaxy some time ago. The creators were not present.
Most likely destroyed by their own creation.
The Asgard would bring some of the blocks aboard for study, but these blocks activated and began to execute their directives, to multiply and replicate. Thus began the Asgard Replicator War. This is one of the biggest hazy spots in their history. Some speculate that the civilization the Asgard found were Reese's creators, but Thor said that the replicators were found in their home galaxy, not in Milky Way. Plus, Thor said that they believed the replicators had already devoured other spacefaring civilizations.
How do they get control of your ships in the first place?
The replicators are capable of modifying our own weapon technology beyond our understanding.
But I thought they learned everything they know from you.
It is possible they have gathered knowledge from sources other than the Asgard.
Reese's planet was vastly more advanced than Earth, but there was no indicator they were a spacefaring civilization. Otherwise, the replicators would have escaped. Another theory is that another civilization came to Milky Way, found the replicator blocks on the Reese's homeworld, and brought them to the Asgard galaxy, where they were overrun, and then the Asgard found their remains. The problem with that is that right now, the number of races that can travel between galaxies is precious few. Other than the races in the Alliance of Four Great Races, we've seen like one other species. In expanded media, the ship from Grace could actually travel between galaxies, and the Hammond encountered it again in Pegasus. We still don't know a thing about the aliens on board, though. That said, I know the canonicity of expanded media tends to be contentious, so if you don't include that, then the number of intergalactic races goes back to only the Alliance. So this technology is extremely rare. Still, it is admittedly possible that there was a civilization in the Asgard home galaxy that the Asgard regularly shared technology with, one that could travel between galaxies. However, there is also another theory. The Asgard did find the replicator blocks on Reese's homeworld and returned to their galaxy, unaware of what they had found. When they realized what they were dealing with, they tried to scuttle the ship. Another civilization found the remains of the initial Asgard vessel, and history repeated itself. The Asgard would find the remains of that civilization, and this time they couldn't contain the outbreak. But the Asgard Replicator War had begun. The Replicators completely overran Ida Galaxy and pushed the Asgard to the brink of extinction. This is also where another second point of debate arises. While the Asgard waged war on the Replicators, the Tari and Tok'ra were waging war with the Goa'uld. At one point in time, the two allies accidentally flew into another galaxy entirely, one with Replicators in it. After a series of events, the Replicators take control of our hero's ship, learning the location and planets in their home galaxy. Then they modify the hyperdrive to take them back to Milky Way. And our heroes sabotage the ship so that it is destroyed along with the Replicators in it, while they escape back to their home galaxy. Yeah, that's a very surface level description of what happened, but we don't have all day. But the point is, the crew encountered Replicators after traveling to another galaxy. While it is possible they ended up in Ida, it is astronomically unlikely. Also, the Asgard need a few days to travel between the Milky Way and Pegasus, which is 3 million light years out.
I understand that Stargate Command has put in a request to the Asgard for transportation.
I know they don't have a lot of ships to spare right now, but that will shave almost 2 weeks off our travel time.
The Asgard could travel between Earth and Ida in only a few hours, which means it's vastly less than 3 million light years.
The journey to our home galaxy will take many hours with your vessel in tow. You may consult your superiors en route.
The unknown galaxy was 4 million light years out, which means that it should have taken more than several days, not a few hours. Some people do theorize that it was Ida, while some think it's another galaxy entirely. If it was the latter, that would mean the Replicators have escaped Ida and devoured other galaxies. This is not outside the realm of possibility, as the Asgard do travel to other galaxies, and the Replicators could have learned of their location via the ship's computers. This has actually happened to Milky Way as well. A replicator-infested ship was dispatched to Milky Way, but it was destroyed in the atmosphere of Earth. Or rather, I should say, it was destroyed in the atmosphere by slamming it into the Earth. This opens up a very dark realm of possibilities, that using Asgard technology and navigation, they've overrun and devoured other galaxies as well. And if we conclude that, the next question is, how many galaxies have they devoured? At some point of time, SG-1 would find Reese and give her to the Asgard. Studying her does not turn up anything useful, but they did use her to set a trap. They used her link to the Replicators to send out a single command to the known universe.
What was the command?
To come forth.
The plan was simple. On the planet Hala, the android's command would order every last replicator in the known universe to come to it. On the planet's surface was a time dilation device. Once activated, time would be slowed to 10 to the 4th power. 1 hour to the Replicators would be more than a year for the rest of the galaxy. There were more than a few hiccups to the plan, and the Replicators nearly escaped and were more powerful than ever thanks to it. But SG-1 managed to activate the device and trap the Replicators. Still, the trap was temporary, and the Replicators would inevitably escape. So the Asgard collapsed the sun into a black hole to destroy the whole solar system. The planet was destroyed as planned as it was pulled into the event horizon. But the Replicators built a ship, one strong enough to withstand the same tidal forces that destroyed the planet. They then reprogrammed the time dilation device to help them escape the black hole. The galaxy-wide plague was nearly wiped out, but if they were not careful, the Replicators would spread again, and it would be all for naught. Fortunately, the knowledge from the ancients let them build them a weapon that could eradicate the Replicators, forcing the plague to flee. The Replicators would now move against the Milky Way. They managed to get specs on the newly built weapon and become immune. Not long after, the Replicators begin overrunning Milky Way. The galactic plague has begun anew. Desperate, the enemies of the Milky Way teamed up to find an old piece of technology of the ancients, one that once seeded life throughout the entire galaxy, and they reprogrammed it to destroy the Replicators. And in one fell swoop, they succeeded, ending the Replicator threat. This then leads to the third point of contention regarding the Replicators. As mentioned, we never did find out if the galaxy SG-1 accidentally ended up in was Ida, or if replicators made it to other galaxies entirely. If they did, what became of them? The orders of the command to come forth was spread across the known universe. Was this literal or a figure of speech? Subspace communication does have a maximum range, but we've never dealt with Asgard communication. The Asgard being able to travel between galaxies in a few hours. Maybe Asgard communication can cross the known universe. Maybe a few replicators failed to respond to the command, for one reason or another. Did we really end the replicator threat? Or is the plague lying in wait out there, waiting for the opportunity to rise again? A grey goo that would devour the entire universe.
Get that.
The replicator behavior is hard to describe. They are all linked by a subspace network that coordinates them, akin to a hive mind. Yet they are not a true hive mind. Replicator constructs are described as having individual behaviors, and nanoform replicators refer to the other as brethren.
When our replicator brethren discovered the android Reese, they realized she was their creator. They studied her design and form, and found aspects of her technology superior to their own.
Our brethren are composed of ungainly blocks.
We are composed of millions of cell units.
There must be a limit to how much your mind can process, how much information you can store.
I am sharing what I learn with my brethren. The extent of knowledge we can absorb is only limited by our numbers. As we speak, those numbers are growing faster than you can imagine.
I think the best way to put it is that every single replicator block is an individual, and all blocks across the entire network can communicate with each other. However, they communicate so well that they achieve perfect harmony. When they come together, they demonstrate individual behaviors, as the constructs are essentially an amalgamation of all the individual personalities of the blocks are composed of. And every construct behaves as one single entity thanks to its subspace communication. There's a video I recommend by CGP Grey called You Are Two that helps put this in perspective. Okay, are you both back? Good. What the replicators have is very similar to that of the human brain, but it's not two halves, but countless number of replicator blocks. And they aren't communicating through a bundle of nerves, but through subspace. Do not view the replicators as a civilization, even an alien kind. They are a plague following two directives: defend themselves and replicate. The learning potential on the replicators is astronomical. Every weapon the Asgard employed against them only served to help the replicators evolve. Worse, sometimes the replicators would even devour the weapon, upgrading themselves in the process and with the technologies consumed. Or even hijack the technology. When they do, they always upgrade it to perform far beyond its normal capacities. In one notable instance, they upgraded a Goa'uld hyperdrive to travel between galaxies in hours, flying 800 times its normal max speed. Weapons that work today become useless tomorrow, assuming they don't build their own and use it against the original wielders. By the time the Tari encountered the replicators, they had evolved to the point they were completely immune to just about all energy and plasma-based weapons. From plasma weapons of the staff to even the weapons that could disintegrate matter like the Zat, none of it worked. The only weapon that did work were projectile weapons, but even this was temporary. The weapon O'Neill created was known as the Replicator Disruptor. Replicator blocks need to interact with one another to become dangerous. The Disruptor cuts communications between blocks, rendering them inert. This sort of weapon was unprecedented, as attempts have been made to disrupt communications between blocks in the past. This was the first technology of its kind to work. Unfortunately, this too was temporary. The reason why the weapon on Dakar worked was because of its massive reach. It hit all replicators across the galaxy, almost all at the same time, giving them no chance to evolve. the core of the replicator swarm are the replicator blocks. While not as small as the nanobots of the Grey Goo, the concept remains the same. The blocks exert a reactive, modulating monopolar energy field on each other. This lets the replicators assemble themselves into just about any form they want.
To our knowledge, the interior of each block contains the following: 2 million isolated Chiron pathways.
Whoa. What's a Chiron?
In simplest terms, it is an energy particle.
These forms aren't solid statues but moving constructs. The most common form are the various bug forms, derivations of the original toy-like structure Reese gave them. However, it is not an exaggeration to say that the replicator blocks can assemble to form anything. They form buildings, ships, furniture, even people. Not those ones, we'll get to them later. These forms have no official names, rather just nicknames the fandom has given them. The fly form was the original toy Reese created, which served as a template for future replicators. They are smaller than the future replicator constructs, but you see the basics, like 4 legs as well as what appear to be 2 wings that can flap up and down. Though these so-called wings are purely cosmetic, they cannot fly. If we were to take Reese's interpretation that this is a toy, then these wings would likely be a way to communicate mood, like ears and wagging tails of a dog.
Say hello to Luna, the smartest pet bot on the block. Luna isn't just a robot. She's a friend equipped with cutting-edge technology. Powered by a robust CPU and a neural network processor, Luna can learn and adapt like no other pet. If you're a tech enthusiast with a soft spot for pets, then you need to meet the future of companionship. Aibo, the robotic dog. Meet Aibo, not just any robotic dog, but a companion molded by cutting-edge technology and your unique interactions. Engineered by Sony, Aibo represents the pinnacle in robotic pet innovation, equipped with deep learning AI that allows it to develop its own distinct personality over time.
They are also seen again when SG-1 accidentally traveled to another galaxy. The so-called spider form is the most common form seen, being a souped-up version of the fly. Its 4 legs are now longer and has even larger so-called wings. The beetle form is an even larger version of this. Now the size of a medium-sized dog's, the wings are now so large they have overtaken its body. In one instance, a replicator seized control of a human body by inserting its leg into the person's spine.
Kill me. Believe me, I'm trying.
But that's not all. The possessed person was killed by an explosion and incinerated, and from its charred remains a skeleton-formed replicator appeared. I've seen some speculate that this replicator on his back reshaped itself, but I disagree. There are not enough blocks in one bug to create a form that large. Rather, I believe they just consumed and replaced his skeletal structure with replicator blocks. When his flesh was burned away, they kept their form. That is why it looked the way it did, why the replicators had a human shape and face, 2 things they wouldn't care about. They were simply keeping the last form they held. Though there is one form we should be aware of. The Tari have nicknamed these Queens. Though this is a misnomer, the constructs have no hierarchy. They do not lead the replicator swarm, rather they serve as factories, creating and assembling replicators at an even higher rate. They will be near power sources, since the act of replicating takes a lot of power. Replicators can also make ships. Normally they just hijack someone else's ship, but they can come together to form their own pure replicator ship. 2 styles have been seen, one being nicknamed a cruiser. The other being nicknamed the spider ship, given its similar appearance to the spider-type replicators. Despite this, do not think of the replicators as their constructs. Think of them as the blocks that compose them. We regularly see that the constructs can deconstruct and reconstruct themselves in all sorts of ways. Even if you destroy a construct, the undamaged blocks will come together to form new constructs. You can imagine how problematic this can become. Blow up a replicator ship or building? You might damage the majority of the blocks, but you'll blow hundreds to thousands of undamaged blocks in every direction. You think you cleaned up an infestation, merely to have a few blocks get lodged into your equipment, and they produce a new swarm. Replicators live up to their namesake by devouring all materials in the environment, breaking it down to its raw components, then using it to make more replicator blocks. Even organic material. If given the chance, they will strip a planet bare. But even that doesn't properly describe it. They're not after organic materials, they're after raw materials, and there's plenty of raw materials beneath the surface, so they'll actually mine down through the planet's crust to some unknown depth, replacing the crust with replicator blocks as they go. They use a corrosive spray to achieve this. We don't know exactly what the spray is. The SGC tried to use an acid-proof glass to contain it, but it didn't work. Replicators expand in phases. They will secure an area, then take the time to strip it of all material and use it to replicate. Once the replicators reach a critical mass, they will expand forth and do it again. If the area they secured is a ship, they will strip it of all the essentials before flying it out in search of more materials. When they do this, they will also upgrade the ship far beyond its normal capacities. They are constantly evolving and learning new things, and every new experience teaches them. Replicators are attracted to two things: advanced technology and sources of energy. The act of replicating takes a lot of energy, and advanced technology means creating more and more advanced replicators. Since replicators are purely instinctual, this has been used to create traps and distractions. You see, intelligence is often conflated with sapience. Think of it as this: you play an RTS game, the AI can beat you even though it isn't sapient. The replicators are incredibly intelligent, but they are not sapient. They are only following their programming to replicate and survive. Even wild animals have shown more self-awareness than the replicators. This also dictates their behavior, as they only kill if that's what it takes to achieve their goals. However, this changes when the replicators reach an advanced enough state, at which point, instead of creating macroscopic blocks, they create nanoscopic cells. They also can now evolve beyond their base programming. It's a fascinating display of evolution at an unprecedented rate, much like biological organisms, from single-celled microbes to aquatic worms to land-based animals to modern humans. This is what the replicators have undergone, from non-thinking creatures to fully sapient beings. The replicators have bypassed AGI and gone straight to ASI. Nanoform replicators are also called human-form replicators, and are given a host of new abilities. They are still immune to energy weapons, but they are now immune to projectile weapons as well. The tiny size of the nanocells allow them to effectively phase through matter. Through this, they can manipulate technology directly. Not only this, they can download information right out of a person's head. The most common way is by literally sticking their hand in their head, but even grabbing a hand will be enough. They also gain the ability to shapeshift, though this technically isn't a new ability. Even the original replicators could arrange their shape. This is no different, though this now also includes textures and colors. The replicators first evolved into this by studying the android Reese and shaped themselves in her image. The biggest change is their newfound sapience. Before, replicators were purely instinctual. With nanoform replicators, they gain self-awareness. They still seek to replicate, but they no longer operate on an instinctual level. They're capable of creative thinking and all the cliché human stuffs. We know of 7 nanocell replicators in total. Those guys don't count. And they adopted very original names: 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th. Despite their human appearance and mannerisms, their paradigm of the universe is fundamentally different from our own. If there was one that came close to being human, it was 5th, who showed compassion, curiosity, even love. Unfortunately, he was also gullible, and SG-1 took advantage of that gullibility. He also developed a crush on Samantha Carter. So Fifth decided to get himself an AI girlfriend, which backfired when it turned out she too inherited some human qualities, namely sociopathy. Should the replicators be allowed to continue existing, one could only wonder what they would turn into next. But let's say you're now faced with a replicator infestation. What is the best way to combat it? If your first reaction to dealing with the replicator threat is with advanced ships and weaponry, stop. If you are confident in your victory over the replicators because of how advanced you are, or how powerful your weapons are, or how powerful your ships are, then congratulations, you now know firsthand how the Asgard were defeated. Besides, the Asgards were advanced enough that they were collapsing stars into black holes as weapons. Races of equivalent levels include the Ori, who collapsed planets into black holes, and the Ancients, who could harvest zero-point energy from their own universe. Being advanced is not the solution. As mentioned, you should not treat the replicators as an enemy civilization, but a plague. If you have established the replicators infesting a location, then the first thing you must do is establish a firebreak. Generalize the zone the replicators are in. Then create an area around the zone deprived of raw material or technology. Often in Stargate, the infested area is a ship, and space is a great firebreak. Lots of nothing in space. If you're not fortunate enough to have this take place on a ship, then it's up to you to establish this firebreak. You could consider this a quarantine zone. You can evacuate the people if you so desire, but be careful. If the replicators have snuck aboard your vehicles or your cargo being evacuated, then it will spread the swarm. Limit the evacuation to people, and only people. If you're afraid of a replicator replacing someone's insides with replicator blocks, a quick scan should reveal that. Once the area has been quarantined, now what? You need to exterminate the infestation as soon as possible. But you need to be careful, you don't want to help them evolve. If the infestation is no more than a few minutes old, then it's possible to send in a team and exterminate them. Bring projectile weapons. They are completely immune to energy weapons, even ones that can disintegrate matter. Do not use any technology that exists in the infestation area. One of the first things the replicators do is make the area safe for them, including compromising any technology that can be used against them. Bring your own scanners and whatever. But let's say you aren't fast enough. The infestation has not been going on for a few minutes, but over an hour.
All personnel, this is Colonel Mitchell. Please report, I got it. Oh, shit. Hey, Sam, they seem to be living up to their name. There's definitely more than one at this point.
How many?
A lot!
There are now too many to exterminate one at a time. Your solution must be mass and definitive. Twice in the past, the course of action was to slam the infested ship into the surface of a planet. When they infested a submarine, the recommended course of action was nuking it. And of course, you have when the replicators were finally defeated. They were all hit by the energy from the weapon on Dakara at nearly the same time across the entire galaxy. In every instance, the solution covered the entire infested area in a way that there was very little chance of any replicator surviving. I keep bringing up slamming the ship into a planet, but even that can be finicky. When it was a Goa'uld ship, they destroyed the engines as it came out of hyperspace, so it rammed into the planet at relativistic speeds, producing an explosion so large you could see the shockwave traveling across the planet from orbit. This one was successful. However, then you have the Asgard crash. The ship was moving much slower and its materials much sturdier. As a result, one of the replicators survived. Another example of the solution failing to be mass and definitive was when the Asgard destroyed a replicator ship above their planet. The replicator blocks survived falling through the atmosphere and began replicating below. Whatever you do, it has to be big. Don't hold back. If you let your conscience cause you to hesitate, what you come up with might not be good enough. And once it's over, make sure it was big enough. The important part is you need to destroy all the replicators at nearly the same time. If they infested a city,
blow it up.
If they infested a ship,
blow it up.
If they infested a planet,
blow it up.
The Pentagon has requested that we take measures to preserve a number of specimens for study.
The Asgard already tried that, and these buggers are on the verge of wiping out their entire race.
That's why I'm here. Now, you people are the closest thing to experts we've got.
As an expert, I'm saying blow it up.
If they infested multiple planets and multiple ships, well, I hope you have something that can cover that large of an area in one go. Otherwise, they'll just adapt and evolve again. That's why it's paramount to destroy the replicator infestation in the early stages. The longer you wait, the more of an area they'll cover. Whatever you do not haphazardly engage the replicators in an attempt to hold them back. You are merely feeding them. Unless absolutely necessary, you are better off running away. If your leaders have not come up with a plan, I promise you, running away and establishing a new firebreak is a better option. Replicators have weaknesses you can exploit, namely their lack of higher intelligence. But they can evolve past these weaknesses if you abuse them too much. Now is also the time to be honest about your own weaknesses. When replicators consume technology and materials, they gain its strengths and weaknesses. When the replicators took over a submarine, the expert recommendation was nuking it, but they ended up simply torpedoing it. Since the replicators used the sub to replicate, they became as vulnerable to the open waters as the materials they took the technology from. If your technology has any sort of mass weaknesses, now is the time to admit it and use it against the replicators. In fact, in general, the threat of the replicators is directly proportional to the technology they consumed. The more advanced, the more dangerous. If your technology and material melt in the sunlight, then the replicators who consumed it will also melt in the sunlight. But if it can resist an atomic bomb, then the replicators who come out of it will also be able to resist atomic bombs. When engaging the replicators, keep it as low-tech as possible. This is good for several reasons. For one, this is to avoid giving them technology to evolve from. The other being replicators ignore you if you're too primitive for them. This can allow you to maneuver inside replicator territory. They are purely instinctual, so if you don't cross any boundaries, then they will ignore you. You want to take advantage of their purely instinctual nature, but do not abuse it. It's only a matter of time before they learn and evolve past it. Replicators are attracted to energy, so be careful. Transporter beams can attract the replicators, but you can also use this to your advantage. Explosions can also attract them. Fighting the replicator fleet can be best described as fighting a superior version of your own fleet. While the replicators can make ships, they mostly hijack other ships. Once that is done, they strip down all non-essential parts and use it to replicate, as well as upgrade the ship's systems. Stronger shields, more powerful weapons, faster engines. When encountering another ship, the replicators prefer to infect over destroy. They can launch projectiles of replicator blocks, or use things like beaming technology. And if your technology gives them another way to board, then you can bet they'll use those methods. Cyber warfare is not recommended. It's been tried, and while it does occasionally glean some information, it usually just gets computers infected. Sometimes replicators will launch a cyber attack to disable the defenses before the attack.
What the hell is that?
I'm not sure, sir. I can't access the system. Looks like somebody's hacked into a computer remotely.
Shut it down.
I can't, sir. I'm locked out.
Damn. This is General O'Neill. Sir!
Evacuate the gate room! Get out of there!
Another reason you don't want to feed them technology is to prevent evolution. If they begin creating nanoform replicators, then I have no real solution. Normally, the main weakness of the replicators is their purely instinctual nature. Once nanoform replicators come out, they begin evolving sapience, creative thinking. Not to mention a new host of ways to gather information and evolve. You might argue that its sapience will allow for negotiation, and while this isn't impossible, we see it with Fifth, I wouldn't start banking on it unless you were truly desperate. Fifth was a fluke, acknowledged as a failure by his brothers and quickly corrected by his successor. Whatever your solution is, it needs to take out all replicators quickly at nearly the same time. Otherwise, they are unstoppable. A weapon of mass destruction to purge the area may be your way to go. Or maybe if you know a weakness to your technology you want to exploit. But as you gather and plan, don't take too long. The fate of your planet, if not your whole galaxy, is now on the clock.